Hello, Facebook community. Our Facebook friends, this is Maria here for Lunchtime Live. I started the broadcast a minute or so early. Again, trying something out. I put a link in the event last week, and I'm hoping that starting my live broadcast, that the link works. And so I thought I would start it a little early to see if anyone wants to try to get in that way. Doesn't really make sense. If you're hearing me, you got in some way. So hopefully this is working and everybody can hear me all right. I see there's about 5 or so people watching. If you are logging in for Lunchtime Live, the bold and beautiful Buckwheat, you are in the right place. And I will just give it another minute or so. I hope everyone can hear me. We did have some audio issues last week. I will wait to see if anyone wants to give me a thumbs up or give me some feedback and let me know the audio is okay. And I'm standing here near the visitor center, as you can see behind me. And there is a little bit of wind, which I'm actually grateful for because it is warm, even here at the Tijuana Estuary on this very warm summer day. So who is here with us today? I love knowing who my audience is. If you are here and want to say hi, I appreciate it. It is 12:01. Not sure this is working since I don't see much of an audience, our usual audience. Link didn't work. Okay, good to know. Thank you, Mark. Audio is good. There's probably a little bit of a delay. So we have a small audience. So I'm here. I'm Maria. I am an education specialist here at the Tijuana River National Estuarine Research Reserve. I work for California State Parks, but also for the research program, and we like to call ourselves the Tijuana Estuary for short. Our audiences are usually our Facebook community, our Facebook friends, and hopefully some new folks will join us today. Hi, Camille. Wow, nice to see you there. And as you know, I've been bringing you these weekly programs to highlight some of the species here at the Visitor Center while the center remains closed and our interaction with folks remains closed. Hi, Bob. Nice to see you there. Thanks for joining us. And we are just going to get underway in just a minute here with the bold and beautiful buckwheat because it is hot. It is hot even here, and I am grateful for the breeze. Thank you. This is my new mask so my first week wearing this mask, and it feels pretty good. Yeah, so the visitor center is still closed. Parking lots and restrooms are open. Trails have been open. So here we go with our Lunchtime Live, the bold and beautiful buckwheat, which behind me is probably the least scraggly stand of California buckwheat I could find around the visitor center. So we'll take a look at this one. This is a plant that maybe some of you have seen before. It's fairly common in the chaparral coastal sage scrub. California buckwheat, Eriogonum fasciculatum. And I write that in the comments a little later. Eriogonum fasciculatum, and this is a plant found in the southwestern U.S. and the northwestern Mexico. Even though it's called California buckwheat, it is found outside of California in those locations I just mentioned. And Eriogonum fasciculatum, there are about 4 varieties of Eriogonum fasciculatum. So I believe is the coastal one. So we'll take the phone off the tripod and use our macro lens to look at California buckwheat. When I first started here 22 years ago, it was told to me as flat top buckwheat, but it's California buckwheat, common plant, great garden plant, and we'll take a look because it is something that is very spectacular right now, hence the bold and beautiful. So for those of you who are not familiar with California buckwheat, we will take a look. So as you can see, I'm here by the visitor center. I picked kind of the lushest stand of it, but it's all over. It is kind of all over the visitor center. And as a lot of these perennial and sort of these plants that are perennial that go dormant in the dry months, they start to look kind of scraggly, losing some of those leaves or semi-deciduous, losing leaves. But I found a stand here, so let's take a look while I flip this around. Oh, there you can see our pretty thin but very old sycamore tree that's in the picnic. So if you're not familiar with the visitor center, there are a couple picnic tables here, and that's where I am, very close to the building. And behind me is a mix of California native plants, but a lot of the color that you see here is that California buckwheat. So if you're seeing green and maybe a little pink and white and a red rusty color, that's all the California buckwheat. We're going to get close to it. So you can see it is a perennial shrub. So it's kind of this moundy, rounded design. You see, and this one is relatively low growing. It's just maybe 3 feet high or so. But California buckwheat can get really tall. There are some individual species here that get they're over 6 feet tall. But this one here is relatively low growing at the moment. And we do trim our trails around here, so this one was trimmed a little bit, but a lot of what we're seeing here is not trimmed. So this was oh, you love buckwheat. Oh, yeah, it is beautiful. Great, Mark. Thanks for your thoughts there. So let's take a look at the California buckwheat. Now, Eriogonum fasciculatum, you can see here, first off, it's got some very nice geometric patterns there. We can see some of the stems, some of the older stems where flowers and leaves have fallen off already. But what we do see, so remember, this is a perennial plant. So it just goes dormant in our drier months, and then after some of those winter rains, it flourishes again. But what's really cool about the California buckwheat is we're seeing that it's still, even though it's very dry and spring is over and summer is really moving on, it's still green. Got those green leaves, and it's got some varying shades of flowers. It does not have a smell. It does not have a smell. So let's get a little closer look, because this is a plant with some tiny leaves and flowers that grow in clusters. And coming from, let's see, let's get that. Wrong spot. Always a little bit of a tricky situation to get that lens. There we go. Get that lens on there, that macro lens. I just love so much to share this plant with you. Oops. So let's take a look at these leaves. So these leaves, the leaves of the California buckwheat, they grow in these clusters. They're very green, somewhat leathery, tiny, curled, look at them, using my finger here, a scale. You can see how small they are. And they grow from clusters, from nodes, these nodes on the stem, up and down the stem. That sort of smooth, kind of entire margin there, the edge, with this curled and leathery, curled shape, leathery sort of texture. Very tiny. Very tough to roll them out there. Okay. And so it's still got some green leaves. Some of them are starting to go dormant, or they will fall off, semi-deciduous, but some still remain. So Eriogonum fasciculatum, or California buckwheat, is in a family called Polygoniaceae. And that refers to the word polygon, which means many nodes. So we can see that this plants in this family, Polygoniaceae, have a lot of these clustery flowers and leaves that come from nodes. So they are almost like needle-like. Yes, they are needle-like, and they are almost like a rosemary. Very good, yeah. For those of you, some of those you know, some of those other botanicals that you may be more familiar with in yards, is very similar in design there. But we can see now as we look at, we find some of the good lighting, some of these flowers. Maybe there we go. And it is, see, the little wind is here with us. So the flowers of the California buckwheat are so tiny, pink and white in color. Pink and white in color, transforming as the soil gets drier, as the seasons get warmer, into that rust color. And so the same plant can have varying stages of the flower. These are just millimeters in size, just a few millimeters in size. However, the clusters can measure much larger, a few centimeters in size, but the individual flowers are just so tiny. Like the leaves, tiny parts in the California buckwheat. And they do not have, these flowers do not have a smell to us. Thanks. Hi, Robin. Thanks, Camille. Yes, this lens is really helpful, especially when the wind isn't blowing. Oops. But it is a great tool that I enjoy using. Let's try that. So I want to be careful here because, one, they are tiny, and I don't want to have any of the drying leaves fall off just yet, or flowers, but also because there are a lot of bees. They're not so much anymore, probably because I'm not here, because I'm here. But when I first came out, this plant was covered in a lot of the honeybees. So this plant, these flowers are an important nectar source for honeybees and butterflies and moths. Unbelievably, maybe, there are about 50 species, 15 confirmed and 36 very likely, as reported by California Native Plant Society, that of butterflies and moths that depend on the California buckwheat. And I believe that's because of the source of nectar that's available throughout the drier months, where a lot of our other coastal sage scrub plants have already dropped flowers, have even dropped their leaves, and are going dormant till next spring. But the California buckwheat has a longer cycle of flowering and leaves remaining. So even though the soil is very dry, it's conserved its water use. And there is, like a hornet or something right there. Let's see if I can get this off so you can see. There, see that flying around there? Wow. I will back off. I don't want to bother this person, sorry, not person, this individual. That would not be fun. So we can see there. Now that we know what we're looking at, you can see that those clusters of flowers are lots of little flowers. They're not a whole flower. Now, you might be thinking, buckwheat. I'm familiar with buckwheat. I sometimes buy buckwheat flour and make buckwheat pancakes. Or I've seen them on the menu. Well, the buckwheat flour that's used commercially is actually a different genus and species, but a plant that is also in the Polygonaceae family, or family, yes. So Polygonaceae, there's about 1,200 species of plants. The largest group in Polygonaceae is the Eriogonums, but the buckwheat. So the family itself is known as the buckwheat family, but the buckwheat, the commercial buckwheat, is not part of the Eriogonum genus. But good question: is it edible like the common buckwheat? In fact, it is. In fact, it is. Native Americans, this plant is a resource medicinally and for food. So teas were made from I'll try to put this on here again, get another closer look. Teas were made from roots and leaves to help with pain, headaches, stomach aches, and these tiny little flowers, if we remember some of the life cycle of plants, will produce seeds. The plant will produce seeds where these flower heads are, and as you can imagine, these seeds are also very tiny. Small leaves, small flowers, small seeds, like the common buckwheat. And the seeds of the California buckwheat were eaten raw or, mixed in with porridge. So they were food source. And leaves and roots made into tea. So, very beneficial plant for wildlife, like all those bees that I keep seeing, and so many species of butterflies and moths, but also for humans, and not just in the commercial way we use it today, when often we can just buy our food and medicine from the store. So this is a wonderful plant. Here we go. Grows very easily in your yard, and you can see it does so well during these dry months. So you'll have something in your yard that's still showing some color, that's supporting wildlife. I'm not a big butterfly entomologist knowing species of butterflies, but there are lots of butterflies that are called blues, different species of blues, and this one supports a lot of them. So I haven't seen any butterflies though since I've been out here, but a lot of the honeybees and that one hornet or so, that wasp that just came by. So there we go. There it is. There's a couple of them flying. I don't know if you guys can see that. Ooh, well, they're having their lunch right now as well. So there you go. The California buckwheat. And I believe probably a lot of you may be familiar with that species. If you are, and if you have it in your yard or you'd like to share, we love to see photos. Haven't had anyone yet post a photo in the comments, either during the program or after. Would love to see what you have, if it's related to what we're talking about, or if you have any questions or comments later, not necessarily during the broadcast, and we always welcome those. I always go back and check and answer those questions. So I hope everyone is staying cool. I'm very hot right now, and I'm looking forward to actually getting back inside. But I'm so happy to bring this program to you today, and I hope you're staying cool out there. And we're looking forward to having you back in the park. Who knows when, but our trails are open. And if you do visit us, please make sure to follow all of those protocols, mask wearing, social distancing, and, oh wait, there's another question. There's a low-growing species at Torrey Pines, almost ground cover. Yeah, so there are several varieties, and like I mentioned, it kind of depends on where in the region you are of the Eriogonum fasciculatum. I think there's at least 4 varieties. There's also there's a desert variety, there's a coastal one, and I'm not exactly sure. So what you're seeing might be, Mark, that it is a different variety, or sometimes if it's at in a very windy place, a lot of times some plants are sort of maybe more stunted in a way because of the environmental effects around them, wind and that sort of thing. So have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next week for Lunchtime Live, and have a great day.